I know it, you know it, we all know it. It's holiday season, so naturally everyone's talking about jetting off someplace nice, but we're over here talking about accessibility and actually being able to get to those places in the first place. So, join me and Dom in the car.
It is embarrassingly dirty.
So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. So, Dom, first things first, can disabled people drive?
Well, my partner Sophie might disagree with the answer to this question, but right now we are driving, so I can safely, hopefully, say yes, disabled people can drive.
Amazing, and what kind of car do you drive?
So I drive a Transporter T5. It's a mobility vehicle, and I have one other Volkswagen T5 before that, which I had for about 8 years. So I've been driving a little while, and that's some indication of my old age. And yeah, it's the most magical, independence-giving thing, and yeah, I absolutely love it.
Love it. Have you had any people say anything, or like, what do people do when they see you drive?
I have all sorts of responses. So the main one is people like overtaking me on the motorway, and then they just slow down and wait for me to then re-overtake them because they suddenly realise that I'm essentially driving a spaceship, and they want to have a good like oogle at me and my controls. Similarly, you'll sometimes catch people as you come back to the car, like looking in the window and like staring at the controls because they're quite unusual. Which all of that, like, I just quite enjoy. I think I obviously get the classic disability bingo of people that are a little bit ignorant, that, you know, they're like, oh, I bet you're a better driver than me. And they don't realise the sort of inherent prejudice of that subtext. But at the same time, you know, I hopefully quite quickly sort of cut through that and give them a little bit of an education, just the way I answer the questions, so they realise, oh yeah, maybe I was sort of had certain preconceptions, and Dom in his driving is kind of alleviating that right now.
How do you find then travelling generally? You said that driving has been like a great sort of piece of independence and, you know, freedom that's been given to you, and then how do you then find sort of travelling more broadly?
I think that I've become quite lucky in that I travel quite a lot, but I also am quite confident with it. So I think that there's not really many situations now where I don't feel able to just kind of get up, check my route, and then go, even if I don't know all the answers to what I'm doing. I'm confident enough with pretty much every mode of transport that I'll get out and try and go to where I want to be. I think that inherently some modes of transport are easier than others. So, for example, you know, aviation does genuinely like mean that you're kind of saying bye to your powered wheelchair when you go onto the plane, and therefore it's a little bit more heart in mouth, shall we say, where you say goodbye to your powered wheelchair. And essentially, you know, maybe you could say that the risk factors are higher. But I love flying, and I love where that can take me. So I wouldn't, you know, not do it. I just obviously passionately believe that we should continue to make the skies more and more accessible for disabled people. I think trains, you know, they go through phases of being very reliable and very not reliable. And I, again, like, I go to lots of stations very frequently now, so I know the staff, I know what to do in certain emergencies. If someone isn't at the platform to greet me with a ramp, what do I do? Similarly, if I'm driving somewhere new, just Google Maps has been the most insane invention for someone like me. Like, so I literally can leave my house and know that I know where I'm going. I don't need to use a map. I don't need to rely on other people, and I'm just totally independent. And then finally, just being out and about, you know, anywhere. Like, I'm probably one of the first people just to ask questions. You know, we often talk about the value of asking questions at Purple Go, but if I'm travelling A to B and I don't know the best route for something, I always ask people, because I don't mind about that, like, oh, I need to ask that person and I don't know how they're going to take this.
Yeah.
I've had to do that so much in my life that it feels like a very natural thing to do.
Yeah,
so
sure.
the easiest way that I can get the information I need to make me feel comfortable and confident to get from A to B, I do it.
Have you felt that things have changed at all, either better or worse, in terms of when you first started travelling and things, and your experience?
I think that there's generally a kind of realisation that the experiences of disabled people historically have been very bad, and therefore people are now aware that they need to be making more inclusive experiences.
Yeah.
So I think that nowadays there is more provision for better accessibility and better communication around that accessibility. The simplest example is you used to have to book 48 hours in advance if you wanted to go on a particular train.
Oh.
Now it's 2 hours, and that is not quite turn up and go, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I still do turn up and go all the time because that's just the nature of being more spontaneous, like anyone wants to be, and stations are much better at accommodating that too. But largely speaking, I think provision for disabled people is quite good. Like, we also did some campaigns with National Highways, and they're specifically thinking about disabled travellers and how they, you know, drive on their road network and any different considerations compared to other drivers. And I think that's something that, you know, maybe decades in the past we wouldn't have thought about, but it is very much part of their thinking now as well. And then obviously aviation, like as kind of previously mentioned, like on planes, we know that there's more like press and awareness around like negative experiences, but hopefully, and with some of the work we're doing with some of our clients, hopefully we're starting to see, you know, all kinds of experiences portrayed in the media, because we want to encourage people and give people the belief and the confidence that actually accessible experiences are out there and people are doing it and they are enjoying it. So, you know, we want to fill them with the confidence and motivation to be able to travel.
Yeah, 100%. On your point about sort of airlines and just aviation companies, are there more things that like travel companies in general, not just thinking of airlines, could do, like just off the top of your head, that from your experiences, either companies that have done really well as well in doing so, or just sort of general pointers that most people you find in those negative experiences that they're often talking about?
I think like information and data is king, and giving as much of that data and knowledge to disabled people is really powerful. It's something as simple as a notification that a lift is out of order. I now get that on a national rail app for trains. I didn't used to get that, but when I open the app, I now know which lifts are out of order. Having that kind of API baked into every travel app, so I could see that on Google when I'm traveling. If I could see that on Citymapper, that would be awesome. Like, and you could apply that same logic to all manner of, you know, different transport, you know, networks and routes. So if I was flying, you know, I'd want my information about my wheelchair, about the batteries in the wheelchair, about the size, about the dimensions, obviously about me and my preferences around kind of moving and handling. I'd love that all to be just on a kind of passport of sorts, where that information just gets shared between all relevant parties. So I think that kind of data exchange into the future is going to become very important, and it will mean that people have a very tailored experience of travel. And it will also mean they don't have to keep saying the same thing again and again and again, because they're so used to saying it. But yeah, in short, there is the potential for things to get, you know, continuously a lot better, and, you know, continue to offer that even more personalised service to disabled travellers.